We've had this conversation, and you seem to agree with me.
G'day friends, my name is James of Burke Creative, and welcome back to another month of ArtSnacks Box Freestyle, where we take the supplies from the ArtSnacks Plus box for August 2021, experiment with them to within an inch of their lives, and then hopefully create a masterpiece for the hashtag ArtSnacks Challenge. Today's fun fact is we are officially celebrating our 1-year anniversary together. This is a year of doing ArtSnacks Box Freestyle, so let's celebrate that together today by jumping straight into the box and seeing what we have to play with. Alrighty, here's the August 2021 ArtSnacks Plus box. Here's everything inside. Let's unwrap the green burrito, and this is what we'll be using today. First up, in the Plus box, we have the Crescent Render No Show Through Lay Flat Sketchbook, 8.5 by 11 inches. We also have a set of 8 Stabilo .88 fine liners. I got a pastel set. We have the King Art Pro color brush pens. This is an ArtSnacks exclusive set of 4. We also have another Stabilo .88 fine liner. I got this purple. Uni Kurotoga Advanced Mechanical Pencil in 0.5 millimeters. A Copic sketch marker. I got RV29, which is crimson. And as always, we have our little art snack and sticker. Let's get set up to play today. Like I said, we are celebrating our anniversary. We've been at this for 12 months. Can you believe it? Time flies when you're having a ball, doesn't it? So I think everyone's pretty familiar with the box freestyle process, but as always, I do like to dive into it and just tell you a little bit about what I discovered and how I like to play, just in case you are new around here or you haven't seen some of these experimentation sessions before. We usually give ourselves about 10 to 15 minutes when we first open the box just to play with everything in there and see what it can do, see what its intended purpose is first of all, and then start experimenting with it. Now we do have some markers in this box and they're water-based, and the thing that I love about water-based markers is you can blend them with water. You can kind of activate that ink and spread it around the paper, but you can also touch them tip to tip like you just saw there and create these special ombre markers. If you've ever used those chameleon markers before, they kind of serve a similar purpose. I don't know if you know the ones I'm talking about, that they have a cap with another ink in there. In any case, you see the effect. But I do like to swatch everything out just so I can get a feel for all of the supplies in the box, the colors that I have accessible to me, like the different range or the spectrum of colors I can use, and also the textures and the applications. Sometimes in this experimental process, we just try things that seem really ridiculous, but then really serve a specific purpose that might be useful in creating our final ArtSnacks Challenge piece. Because whilst, yes, most of us have more supplies than we have in the box, it is always good to challenge yourself to use a limited kind of set, because it extends your ability to be resourceful, and I think it pushes you creatively in another way, in that problem-solving kind of skill set, which is just as important as knowing lots of different art theory. I think problem-solving is probably one of the best things you could have a lot of practice at. It tends to serve me well, I think, throughout my art journey. So I like to swatch it all out. With the pencils, I'll usually give them a bit of a smudge. I'll see how easily they erase. On this paper, this is a no show-through sketchbook by Crescent, and I've used this paper before. It's kind of got this lining in the middle of it. I don't know how they really describe it, but in essence, it's not going to bleed through, but it does give you a bit of a different effect. It's not like watercolor paper, so even though I am using this water brush to activate a lot of the water-based mediums, like the pens and the markers, it's not going to behave like watercolor paper does, but it does spread the ink around, and I did manage to get these really fun watery loose effects. So I really did lean into that in my final piece, very much so what you see I'm doing on the camera right now. I sketched out an eye with that fine liner, and I just started blending all the colors together. I wasn't trying to wash away all of the line work. I didn't want to make a watercolor. I almost just wanted to blur the line work and just see what happened, and I think it created this really beautiful, soft, whimsical effect. So I really wanted to lean into that for my final piece. Here you see again using those water-based mediums to create this pseudo gradient marker. I then kind of questioned, well, if the pens were water-based, couldn't I do the same thing with the pens? So you'll see me do that with one of the Stabilo pens in a second, and I think that was a really fun little discovery. But I like to layer, I like to get my hands in there, get them dirty, I like to activate things with water. It's just an experimental process. we're kind of like chefs in the kitchen, right? If we keep it art snacks themed, this is our experimentation process, and not everything is going to, not everything is going to develop into the newest technique we've ever seen in the whole of the artistic universe that's existed before, but it is always a good idea just to learn a bit about the supplies before you start using them, if you want to be able to extend them to their fullest potential. I always like to think that these supplies are made in a specific way that has an intended purpose, and that as artists we can get super creative and use them in ways that possibly even the people that made them didn't expect them to be used for. So here I am just selecting a bunch of stuff that I liked. This is kind of me choosing out my recipe for ideas I might want to work with for my final piece. We'll get to thumbnailing and see what happens next. It has been a hot minute since we've seen the Hobonichi come out for some thumbnailing, but today I had a few too many ideas bumbling around in my head, and it's just so much easier for me to get them onto the page and adjudicate which ones I want to go with from there. I'm a bit more of a visual person, if you haven't noticed. Anyway, so I got 4 of these ideas down. One of them I actually wanted to fully sketch out because I was curious about how it would look. So you see that happen on the page off to the right in a second. There we go. It's more of a character turn. They're kind of staggered. It almost looked like they were standing in a semicircle. Plot twist, I didn't end up choosing this idea, but I was happy that I gave it a go because I was just curious. That happens to me a lot. I can start one project and end up in 6 different projects by the time I even get to like step 3. I don't know what it is, but I generally allow myself to go on those little creative frenzies because you know what? They're so hard to get back. I feel like you might as well just chase them down. I don't know if we've ever talked about this before, but I think I should share it actually since it came up. This idea of a creative frenzy. To me, it's anything that your brain says, try this, like what if we did that? It's just an idea that pops into your head. What if we mixed that color with that color? Try it then and there. I always say to chase it down, usually when I'm teaching, just because a lot of the classes that I teach are recorded. So you can always go back and watch the replay. You can always go back and see what happened. But the thing that doesn't always come back is that urge to try something. And I think those little creative frenzies are those signals from your brain to say like, let's get creative, let's get experimental. And it doesn't mean that it's going to lead to any kind of miraculous discoveries. I never promise that it's actually going to get you anywhere, but what I can say is most of those kind of pathways that you go down when you chase those creative frenzies tend to be a lot more motivating, and they tend to encourage you to explore further, and that in essence will essentially lead you somewhere. So I don't know what the real point of me saying it was, it just kind of came up, but I do say it a lot when I teach. They're these little creative frenzies, and basically chase them down when they come, because if you don't, they will leave and they're most not likely to come back. But you can always kind of rewatch a video or rewatch some teaching or ask the question again. I just think it's better just to kind of chase down those thoughts as they come to you. And there's only really one way to find out. As many times as we can watch videos, and it's always really fun to consume a lot of content on social media, and especially, I love watching how everybody else interprets the ArtSnacks Challenge. There is still no better replacement than to actually get your hands on it yourself. Because supplies like we've looked at, especially in the experimentation, they have so many different applications. I'm using the fine liners as a watercolor. I'm using the markers as a watercolor. Maybe there are people out there that think that's way too fussy and they wouldn't like it. So they're going to need to get their hands on it to find the ways that they like to use that. And then some people will love something that some people won't even enjoy picking up. Even the weight of a certain pen or a pencil, or the thickness of the barrel of a marker, or the shape of the barrel even, can really have an impact on how people experience creativity and how they make their art. So I always encourage people to get hands-on, and especially when you're being kind of intrinsically led, like when it's coming from inside yourself, just go for it, because it's going to lead you to a lot more of an honest place of experimentation and discovery. So I like to call those creative frenzies, and I do, because I tell everyone to go and do it, I do allow myself to go and do that as well. But like I said, it can usually lead me on like 16 different tangents. Probably not a good idea when I'm trying to film something, but I do it anyway, and we have a good time. So here is my final piece. I have decided that I'm going to lean into that kind of watercolor, very whimsical look. And you can see I'm using the water brush just to activate kind of all of those water reactive markers and pens. The face, I just layered up over and over and over again. You'll see the leaves, the background, I kind of kept them a little bit more simple. I didn't try to do as many layers as there was on the face. And that's a bit of an intentional choice because I realized there was a lot going on in the image. And to really pull focus to the character, that central character, I kind of made those colors really pop out of the page by not having them elsewhere around the page too much, and then also contrasting how much detail there was in the face. One of those really effective techniques, I think, to bring attention to something is to leave everything else not unfinished. I mean, unfinished is also a really good way to do it, but if you leave everything else kind of flat, or maybe with 1 or 2 layers, nothing too detailed, but then you've got one part of your image that you just go to town on. Like, you just give it all the layers, all the color, all the vibrancy, all the detail. Immediately you will draw someone's eye to that place. So I usually reserve those spots in my images for what I want to draw people's attention to. And it's usually what I want to draw my own attention to. It's the thing I like to look at the most. It's the thing I like to draw the most, color in the most, and that is the face. I just love the eyes the most, and so I always want to put so much detail in there and just kind of direct people's attention there. So that is where you'll see the most of these layers build up. And the pens just do such a beautiful job of layering. They're transparent, but they've got this really beautiful wash. Sometimes the line does kind of stain the page, so you can't fully erase it away, but I like that. It's kind of that blurred look. And I just think it looks so beautiful, especially with a bunch of layers on there. It just looks very, very kind of rich and deep. So that is how I decided to kind of bring focus to that area of the page. And then the rest, I just kind of went in and filled in with some details, keeping everything pretty much, teal and green in the background, just to blend it all together, and so that you would just really look at the character in the central part of the page. Now, I know I did say that she was a fairy, and I didn't put fairy wings on, so I'm just going to pretend that she just can fly. Usually I would put the fairy wings on. I did realize by the end of the piece that I didn't actually leave room for it. Again, even when I thumbnail, I don't always think through all of my composition choices before I start. But you know what? I still had a wonderful time anyway, and I think that is the most important part about any time you sit down to create with your art supplies. To finish everything off, I gave her a few freckles, and I also noticed the background was a little bit flat for my liking. So I just went over with another layer of that marker, that green marker, and just did a whole bunch of leaves in all the negative spaces. It doesn't matter where they sprout up from, it just created this beautiful looking kind of layered depth of foliage that she just gets to sit in the middle of. And I really love how it turned out. So here are some of the close-up shots. This has been another month of ArtSnacks Box Freestyle. Such a wonderful selection of things to play with today. You know I love when I get to water activate anything that comes in the plus boxes. I'll see you again in a second for the outro. Goodbye. There we go. There is the finished piece for August 2021. I hope you enjoyed watching that come together. If you would like to join ArtSnacks, you can use the code James10 at checkout for 10% off. And if you would like to share your work, please do with the hashtag ArtSnacksChallenge so we can enjoy it on social media and within the Mix community as well. Thank you again for another wonderful month. I'll see you around sometime soon. Bye.